Welcome back. The Tour de France is upon us, and we know a lot of people are watching the Tour de France at night time and not really understanding what's going on in the race, but they love the scenery. So we want to give a little bit more depth to how to follow the race and what's happening. Now, what we have here is some hand-painted little figurines that show some premium jerseys that we need to know about. So let's go through these, Dean. Which one's the most important?
Well, I guess the yellow one's probably the most important.
Yeah.
Well, the yellow one basically signifies the leader of the particular point in time. So the leader, the wearer of the yellow jersey is the one with the lowest overall time.
Okay, so that's called GC, General Classification, and that's the least amount of time on the road, but it's accumulated over a day. So if you're a minute ahead on day one, then you start the following day a minute ahead. So for someone to take the jersey from you, they've got to catch up a minute and then pass you beyond a minute and then be further in front. So it's an accumulated time over all of the days.
Correct.
That's a bit of a funny one. Let's just go back to that for a sec.
Okay.
Because you can have a really, really great day on the time trial or something, or a hill climb, and get a couple of minutes in front, and then just sit the rest of the whole ride out and stay in the bunch and stay ahead on time all the way, as long as nobody gets away from you. So this can be, even though it's the most coveted of all the jerseys, and it's really classified as the winner, it can be won in one day and kept after that exceptional performance.
If you're looking at aerial shots from a TV coverage en route, it's very easy to spot. You know, most people are interested to know where is the leader in a bunch of 150, 200 riders. Quite easy to spot the yellow jersey. Although, having said that, what does confuse some people, some teams over the years have had a large amount of yellow in their team kit, which can confuse things.
Jumbo Lotto.
Jumbo Lotto was a good example. I mean, the race typically specifies the amount of yellow you can have in your team kit, but it can be confusing sometimes.
Now, the white jersey is exactly the same as the yellow jersey, but it's 25 and under. So it's a best junior on the road.
Best young rider.
Best young rider.
Best young rider,
you can be the winner overall of 25, like an age group. So the difference between those two is age group classification, and exactly the same deal. Sometimes people who are in the age group classification are also winning the yellow jersey, which then they would wear yellow.
You never see just a plain white jersey. Whoever the wearer of this is belongs obviously to a team.
Or yellow.
Or yellow, or any of these other jerseys we'll go through. You will see the teams, those special editions in the team's sponsorship logos, etc., on the jersey. So it's never just a plain stark white colour.
Yep. The next jersey is the polka dot jersey, known in France as the Pois Rouge. This is the hill climbers jersey. It's kind of similar to the GC jersey, but the person who, on the top of every climb, they have a little finish line, which can be in the middle of a race or at the end of a race, but they put additional points there for hill climbing. And those points accumulate on every time. So on a flat stage, they may not have any hill climb points at all, but you win points and stay ahead of the opposition by winning more of those classifications.
Exactly.
One thing about this is you might get a whole team that are only focused on winning the polka dot jersey. They're not interested in yellow, they're not interested in white or anything else we're going to talk about. They just support that rider only. So they might lie low in the flat stages and they don't appear to be racing, they're just riding along as a bit of a procession, and then it gets to the mountains and then they appear. And a few teams might be chasing that. So you see a strategy unfold which teams want to get the polka dot jersey.
A very prestigious jersey, obviously, because the Tour de France is often decided by a rider who is very strong in the mountains. Not necessarily always the winner of the jersey is the winner of the event, but typically the overall winner, the yellow jersey, typically tends to place quite high in the polka dot jersey.
Before we go on to the next jersey, I just want to say that the Tour de France organisation are always trying to move the race around a little bit to make it equal for everybody. So if they have a lot of hill climbers in, they might put some more flat stages in. So anyone's got a chance at winning the general classification. It's not just weighted at the hills, where if they have a real even playing field on the polka dot jersey, some great climbers, and they want to see a thrash out between the climbers, the course will be developed around making the race interesting. So for the people who are in the know about what teams and what riders do what, this whole little competition becomes a lot more interesting. And this isn't just exclusive to the Tour de France. Whatever race you watch, whether it's the Giro or the Vuelta or any race, they may change the colour of the jersey, but they all have this jersey classification on these 4 jerseys. This is the green jersey. It's kind of like the polka dot jersey, but there's sprints during the race, they're called preems, and there's also a sprint at the end of a race. And every time you pass one of those intermediate sprints or the end sprint, the rider gets points. It's a lot more points to win the race at the end, at the finish line, but they can get more points during the race. So this jersey has to be raced for during the race and at the end of every race, and usually the points are very close. So when we're watching the yellow jersey unfold, it's usually closely fought. But I think any competition is good to watch if the competition's tough between the riders.
Yeah,
but the green jersey, you've got to work hard for. You've got to take a lot of risks, getting into those fast sprints toward the finish, nudge their way out, and really, I think the most skill as a bike rider is won by the green jersey.
There's, in terms of tactics, riders competing for the green jersey, you have to be aware of breakaways more often, right? Because the breakaway typically will contain the riders who are going to get the intermediate sprint points.
Absolutely.
So sprinters, you can't just hang back in the bunch all day and then sprint for that. Well, they can do that for the finish, but they're unlikely to win the jersey because there'll be other riders who've collected points en route during the intermediate sprints who will probably win the day.
So for example, let's say we've got 2 guys that are racing for the green jersey and they're in the bunch, and also the yellow jersey who is the fastest on the road overall time. They're all together and they're sitting in the bunch together, and there's another guy or 2 and they're in a breakaway. Now, if they don't threaten the yellow jersey on time, then there's no reason for this guy to chase the other guys. So they stay there. But the green jersey, these guys are fighting it out. One of them has to get in front to get the points. So when the yellow jersey is not in contention, this usually picks up a little bit. Where people usually turn this on, they watch Gabriel Gateau, they watch the beautiful scenery, a little bit of history, and they look at the yellow jersey and think there's nothing happening, but there's a lot happening in the bunch.
Yeah. Now, that leads us to we'll park these 3, we'll park our other riders here. Now, where do you want to start here?
Well, I wanted to say one thing, that when you look at a team, different teams have different number of people. The Tour de France starts with about 180 riders. Correct me if you're exactly right.
Give or take.
And there are 9 people per team. All of those 9 people are working for one person within the team who's the captain. So you'll have a team of people trying to help one guy get to the bottom of the hill to get ahead, or get to the finish line, or do the best ready to improve their time and improve the jersey. So that whole team go back and get food, or they go back and get their jacket, or they protect them from the wind. So quite often when you're seeing a rider in the group, he's got a lot of his team members around him, not only protecting them from accidents, but also protecting him from the wind and giving him food and looking after him. They want to deliver their team captain to the point where they're going to gain an advantage over everybody else, fresh and well protected.
Correct. Great example. Chris Froome, as we know, has won multiple Tour de France, good old spaghetti arms. His entire team is there to serve him.
Yep.
So they're one job. They're focused on the general classification overall. One thing is interesting though, on a given day, the person the team is riding for may vary, because a team may not have someone who's challenging for the general classification. They may have a good sprinter as well as a good climber. So one day they're looking for that. The next day they're looking after their rider who's competing for perhaps the green jersey, and that'll just depend on the stage, because some stages are flat.
If this guy's going to fail, the team might shift their focus.
Correct.
What's really dangerous is Robbie McEwen has struck this a few times. Now, Robbie McEwen, for the good part of his career, never had a good team, and even when he did have a good team, most of the time their attention was divided.
Apologies to Robbie McEwen's team as well.
Well, look, they're all good riders, but Robbie McEwen was an amazing sprinter, and he really did a lot of the work on his own in many of the races. I mean, he always just popped out at the right time, reading the situation. Hope you're listening, Robbie.
Great tactician.
Just magnificent to watch. You know, you're watching the race unfold, you don't see him, in the last minute he just pops out and wins.
Is that because he was so small?
Oh, he hid. He did a thing called surfing the peloton. But he's one of my favourite all-time athletes. He really was passionate and did a great job of getting and defending his jersey. And there's some other sprinters that have achieved more than he has, but they haven't been, to me, as exciting to watch because they've had support of the team, or it's just a roll-out process. But Robbie seemed to manage to do the impossible many times.
Many times.
So we're going to talk a little bit about, other than the teams, you're going to see a guy wearing the World Championship bands, and that means he's the current World Champion. He'll have his team livery on the jersey as well with the team nicks, but he'll have the current World bands, and you'll see bunches of people, individuals in the bunch with their national jerseys.
Their national colours.
We've got the Australia one here and the French one here, and they are the current national champion. And if you have been a champion of that nation, but you're not currently, they'll have the coloured bands around their sleeve.
On the sleeve.
So if you see someone riding along and they've got the coloured bands on their sleeve for their national colours, they have been a national champion, but they're not currently the national champion. So it's a bit of a mess when you stand back, but it helps you follow the race and looks deeper into what's happening and looks at the strategies. And we have some great talks during the Tour de France when we're there watching the races about why did they help that team. And there's deals done between teams, like two teams might say, we'll help you look after the yellow guy, but on these 3 stages we want you to help us get the green jersey and we'll protect you. So one team member riding yellow might have 2 or 3 teams protecting his interest, as long as his team work for the other guy when the yellow's not up for grabs.
Absolutely. It's an amazing game of chess, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
At the end of the day.
It is.
On 2 wheels.
It's a war.
With some wonderful scenery in the background.
And we're heading over there very soon.
Very soon.
Then when this is played, we might already be there.
We might already be here, correct.
And we might even do a little bit of a show from the side of the road with the Tour de France. But it's very, very exciting. We'd love you to come and join us on one of our tours with bikeNOW Europe in France to look at the Tour de France, and also some great epic rides on the mountains that made the tour famous.
That's it for this session. Hopefully that enlightened you to some degree on some of the detail behind the colours, the jerseys, and some of the strategies of the event.
And just remember, during July, any boss who goes crook for their employee coming to work is a mug. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next show.